Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Dr. Ben Olmos. What are we going to be talking about? Well, if you're in business, you're going to want to know this. It's the future of business storytelling. You know, it isn't about pitching. Everybody's tired of the pitching. He says how the daily pitch helps managers, leaders, and entrepreneurs get better at what they do. He's rooted in helping managers, leaders, entrepreneurs get better at what they do. And after decades of working with Fortune 500 companies and the C-suite leaders, he saw a gap between the insight executives have access to and practical everyday knowledge that small business owners and professionals need to thrive. He founded the DIST Media as a company focused on developing products and insights that will help those interested in business at any level build upon their knowledge and their wisdom. It is really a marriage of three passions, which are business education, creativity, and passions. He's been in the CGP industry, consumer product goods, for over 30 years, highly educated for 20, and a curious creator all his life. The Daily Pitch is a platform designed to help to publish stories, insights about business, um, leadership and entrepreneurship. The Daily Pitch Academy is an education platform which is helping people and individuals at all levels to learn about their theories and their practicals that he's taught for many years. He will also you will also become a platform for consultants and coaches who have leverage to help and teach and inform. The podcast, Dis Media, a startup story, tells the story of starting Dis Media from the very beginning, and his purpose to share what he's learned in the boardroom and the classrooms, but also to dramatize the wisdom that so many, anybody building a business or leading a team can make smarter, faster, and more human decisions. He began his career at Coca-Cola in Atlanta, and just making 5.5 for that hour, really not much back in those days. He required education experience he didn't have, so he enrolled in college while working full-time and raising a family. And after 2 decades with Coca-Cola, he advanced professionally, earned his degree, and pursued his MBA, and eventually began teaching. And this is what he's doing now, teacher at heart. Um, and you know, when you've got people that want to teach at heart from the understanding of what you need and understanding how people become engaged with you. It isn't about pitching what you do, it's more about explaining who you are and why what you do. So welcome to the show, Ben.
Wow, that was a mouthful. I apologize. I should have shortened that up a little bit, but
That's okay. That's okay. It gives people the background of who you are and why you are and what you do. And, you know, we've talked previously. And so, you know, like you went to work for Coca-Cola and you know, you realize you didn't have the degree, and at some point thought, okay, I'll go and get that. Well, I'm working and raising a kid. I've got all the time in the world. Right? uh, but the you know, the common denominator of everything that you've done is wanting to help people in business um, do better than what they're doing, and all the various techniques. And you've got so many people that will push the rah-rah and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. But it really is about kind of sharing your story and your why, and having people feel invited into what you're doing rather than feeling dictated at.
yeah. Yeah, I always say, like, I hate being managed. And that probably comes from a long background of, really wanting to kind of move in my own direction.
Hmm.
I often uh, I've often kind of had a path that I wanted to explore
Hmm.
and a way that I wanted to learn and approach things, and really, kind of pushed back when people said, no, 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 you got to do it this way. And, I'm of the belief that there's no one way to learn. There's no
Exactly.
one way to, run a business. There's no one way to manage people. And at the end of the day, a lot of us are just knocking our heads together, trying to do it the best way that we can, that works for us, right?
Hmm.
And so, whether it's learning or understanding about business or understanding about, how to manage people, we all have our role models, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we got to use what works best for us. And so, that's kind of what I try to do.
And I think the big question is for so many people is understanding what works for this. Because so many people are always kind of pitching, you got to do it this, you got to do it that way. And if it doesn't resonate, or if you don't quite understand how it connects to you and what you're doing, you certainly are not going to adopt or adapt to it because it's got to make sense to who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Do you relate to it? If you don't relate to it, how can you adopt it?
Right. Yeah. It most certainly has to connect. Right. And, one of the things, I always joke when, so I've been teaching for, 20 years now,
Mm,
parallel to a career in consumer goods. And one of the things that, I always start out with my students, I try and tell them, like, where you see me now, 30 years in an
mm,
industry with a PhD and all this, academic, history behind me, it's certainly not where I started.
mhm,
Like, I always like to say, like, I passed all my classes on the way to my car. I was not a stellar student. Most students, get counted for when they're attending,
mhm.
or when they're absent. And my, teachers would often just, check me when I showed up. Um, not to say that I didn't enjoy learning or I didn't value education. It's just it didn't necessarily work for me in that environment. And it
Right.
wasn't until I got out and started taking control of my own education through my own classes, pursuing the topics that I was interested in,
Mm.
then it got a lot more interesting.
Then you became engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Right.
and
Because when you're stimulated, you become engaged.
yeah, I mean, and I think for everybody, you got to find whether it's the career, the job, the approach to learning, no matter what it is, you got to find the way that works for you and then leverage that and exploit the heck out of it. Yeah, I've never been a particularly fast reader or even a fast writer. Like, I tell people, like, when I was doing my dissertation, I could spend an hour or two just writing one page.
Hmm.
Like, because, I research it, I read it, I
Hmm.
write it, I reread it, I edit it, and then, it just takes a minute to shape it into something. But,
Mm.
it's not a race, right? It's just about getting
Exactly.
there.
Yeah. And why you're getting there. I think a lot of people don't ask themselves, why do you want to do that? Right. And
Right.
it's like, and it's not like, oh, I want to have prestige CEO, run the company one day and all of that. It's like, uh, who are you that you're bringing to the table? Does it even benefit the table? And are you really the ingredient that the table needs? And there's so many questions we need to ask ourselves before we make a career decision. I want to go down this path. Well, why? Look at yourself 20, 30 years on from there. How do you see yourself?
Yeah, and the other thing too, like, maybe there is that person who wants to be in charge, who wants to
Mm.
lead, and that's fine. But what that person needs to understand is that's what you want.
Yes.
That's not necessarily what your counterparts want.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a mistake I made early on, just even getting into management. Like,
Hmm.
I just assumed that, like, oh, well, I'm here. Doesn't everybody want to be here? Like, no, they don't. They want to, do their own thing. And if they decide that they're not looking to run up that career ladder,
Hmm.
the same ambition and desire that you do, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
And
no.
we have a bad habit, by the way, in business of uh, we have to get better. We do. We
Yeah.
have to improve what we're doing for all kinds of reasons related to being sustainable and profitable for the future. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to get there the same way.
Mhm.
And not everybody has to be squeezed into um, I don't know, performing at the highest level possible. Jack Welch, former CEO of GE, he was famous for having the bottom 10% cycled out of the company every year.
Mhm.
And, his approach was always, if you're in the bottom 10%, then, you need to leave. And it's probably better for you that you do leave, is kind of
Mhm.
his philosophy. And I'm glad to see that we're kind of moving away from that a little bit.
Yes.
But certainly some of that old, belief is still in the system.
I mean, there's so many reasons, not everybody is an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody is capable of that. And there's a lot of people that like bossing people, but that doesn't make you a leader, right? That's
Right.
totally opposite. Um, but some people are just like, I just want a good job. I can grow to a certain point in my job. I want to know the security. And that, obviously there'll be raises along the line for the work that I'm putting in, but I don't want the responsibility of management or, climbing that big corporate ladder and all that comes with it. And we need people like that because they're the foundation, they're the bricks and mortar of any company. And you can't have everybody vying for that management type side of it because then all you have is managers managing each other and a lot of ego being thrown around. So you've got to look at what are you designed for? Well, I'm designed to be the plotter, and that's perfectly okay. Plenty of honor in that because I am the foundation that glues the company. And then, okay, I'm, the CEO, I'm the visionary. I can see where the company is going to go. I've got to get my managers motivated so they can motivate everybody else and getting it on track. But if the managers aren't inspirational, if they're not inclusive, if they're talking at their people instead of to their people, there is a complete miscommunication and then there's conflict starting.
Yeah, it's leadership is so dynamic.
Hmm.
And there's in school we learn about situational leadership, and it's
Hmm.
about having the right person in the right place at the right
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
to implement the proper amount of change. And a lot of management these days, and what is interesting about where we're at in the business cycle. It used to be that you could create a plan, you could create a business plan and a business strategy, and that plan or strategy could work for several years, maybe
Hmm.
even a decade or so. But because of the advancements of technology and competition and things like AI,
Yeah.
coming into the fold, those strategic plans are getting more and more brief. When you have disruptions like COVID, when you have
Yes.
economic collapses, when you have housing busts,
Hmm.
people have to pivot and
Yes.
change how they do things very quickly. And if you look over the last 20 years,
Hmm.
globally, we've had a lot of significant shifts that,
Yes.
the 20 years prior to that, we were just pretty, you go to business school, you learn some things, and you come out and you can develop that 5 to 7 year strategy and run it. But
Yeah.
now those strategic plans are just getting the timeline on them is getting less and less. And so, it's tough for me sometimes because I'm an innovator, I'm a go-getter. I try to understand what the latest and greatest is. Not everybody is that way, and I
Exactly.
understand that. But there's also kind of this signal out there that says, okay, if you don't want to be that, it's getting more and more difficult to find that industry that's a little bit more stable because
Yes.
everything is being affected by all of this change.
Yeah.
So, um, as a worker, it's tough. It's tough for those who want just that steady
Yeah.
thing,
Stability.
right? For leaders, it's tough because everything that you learned in business school has changed in the last 24 months, right?
Exactly.
I
Or the
shouldn't say
last month.
everything,
I say
but
the last 10 months.
yeah, I mean, it's literally not everything, but it's enough that we've got to find the new way of doing things.
Exactly.
Um, and so,
Pivot without breaking, right?
yes, yeah, bend, like learn
Yes.
how to bend, but not break.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is more and more difficult.
Hmm.
I think today more than it has been.
Uh-huh.
And you know, when one of the reasons I started the daily pitch was, I try and look for what the latest science is saying about
Hmm.
leadership, about small business marketing, about sales, about those major elements of business that are changing, that are evolving. And so, even if it's just putting a signal out there to say, hey, be on the lookout for this, because we don't know where it's going, but change is certainly coming, right?
Yeah.
And there's always so many things out there that are, evolving that way. It's hard to keep up. I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I enjoy digging and finding these little nuggets, but
Mm.
for the people who don't, you
Yes.
I
It can be
understand that.
stressful. It can be
It is.
stressful. They're just like to, they're on the raft. You're just trying to keep it nice and stable. And all of a sudden, big waves come along and it's like this and that. And for a thrill seeker, woo! And for other people, it's like, ah! Like, just give me back a nice smooth lake. Um, and I think that's the problem is that I mean, the universe gave me a saying 8 years ago. I'm going to shake you up to wake you up, for you to step up and change it up and grow up. Grow up vibrationally to a higher consciousness, but also grow up as a human race because we have become kind of in a lot of ways a bunch of whiners. And that shaking up is happening a great deal right now, globally. And especially because the focus is very much on the US right now, because the kind of shake-up that you're going up, I don't think it ever anticipated in its existence, especially coming from internal, not external. And when people are unsure of their security, their financial security, their health security, then people are constantly living on alert. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to bring any pivoting. Well, now we've got to go here. It's a cha-cha-cha, two steps this way, and that's there, or the tango. And for some people, their left feet, it's really hard to do that dance. But it's a very stressful time for people to adjust and to pivot. And we need some stability in our raft, even if it's a life jacket, that kind of allows us to be able to manage the seesaw, and not feel we're going to get toppled over.
Yeah, and I have a couple thoughts about that. And, first and foremost, we need to pull away from a little bit of social media. And I
Mm.
know, like for you and I, what we do, we have podcasts, we have
Yes.
blogs, there's things we write, we put it out there for the public. And so in a sense, we need that. But
Yes.
I would say focus more on the positive
Mm-mm.
elements of social
The
media.
good algorithm. Yes.
Yeah, there's a negative rabbit
Mm.
hole we can all go
Yeah.
down on
Yeah.
any given day with the news, we'll just say. And I think what is really important is put your faith more in the people around you and in your
Yes.
neighborhood than in the politicians and in the
Mm.
business leaders. People are drawing too much um, emphasis out of those things that they can't control.
Hmm.
Okay, so real simple little thing. In business school, one of the things we learn is about a SWOT analysis, SWOT. So it's an acronym, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what we teach people is strengths and weaknesses, those are the things that you can control internally.
Hmm.
Meaning that if you have a problem, you can train people, you can create policies and procedures, you can spend money, you can operationally do something about it. It's within your control.
Hmm.
Opportunities and threats, those are all the things that are outside of your sphere. You
Hmm.
can only respond to opportunities and threats, but you can't plan for them.
Right.
So, new competitors, new legislation,
Hmm.
uh, tariffs, right? There's
Hmm.
nothing we can really do about. I mean, we can get angry about it. We can voice our opinion. We could write to our representatives, but at the end of the day, it's going to go its course.
Yes.
So we need to control a little bit more within our sphere.
Hmm.
I remember someone told me years ago when we were going through a wave of layoffs. They said, the only thing you can control is your attitude.
Exactly.
Everything else, you got to leave it up to, whatever. And so, yes, prepare, plan for
Yeah.
things, save money, have a second option in your back pocket,
Hmm.
but don't dwell on it. Like,
Exactly. Focus on
don't
what you
dwell
can
on
do.
the news and the
Yeah.
politicians and all this crazy garbage that's out there. It's just not worth it.
Is be aware. Yeah, obviously you've got to be aware. If you're running a business, you've got to be aware. My niece runs a business in Miami, and she is in, she sets up office furnitures, and she did the Smithsonian and everything about that. She imports 95% of her stuff because it's all high-end Italian and Europe stuff. But the tariffs have put her out of business.
Mm,
She just can't do it. It's like ended up 25% here, 50% there. You can pass on a certain amount of cost, but not everything. And
right.
so for some people, it's kind of an end of a chapter, wherever long that chapter is. And yes, mourn it like you would mourn anything else. But look at also, okay, what opportunity can I do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, what can I do now? Because you can get stuck in on how it's affecting you, and you have to go through the grieving process, right? Because otherwise, it's going to build up. But it's looking at, okay, so what? There's always a need, always a need. What need can you fulfill now with your expertise? How can you pivot towards that and feed that? Because when a door closes, there's always something else that opens.
Yeah. And, more and more, um, if there was ever a time to plan. Like,
Hmm.
and I find that a lot of times when people experience crises,
Hmm.
experience having to do something and respond to something very quickly, it's because they haven't really considered, what the plan is if things go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're running a business and, it is tough. I happen to work in an industry now that was really rocked hard by tariffs.
Hmm. Wine
And
industry.
yeah, yeah, and in that industry, especially when, we're allowing our emotions to get into it. And not, by the way, not the people in the industry. I'm talking about our leaders' emotions who,
Hmm.
say, oh, if you don't like what I say, then it'll be 200%, right?
Right, exactly.
Um,
Nay, 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 nay.
right. And I will say, like, that's tough. Like, I don't know how you plan for that.
Yes.
Um, Except that you hope that cooler heads prevail and
Hmm.
we get into a better spot where we're not focused on, playing games with people. It's it's really challenging, especially for people who are just starting out a bit,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
if you're starting out a bit and you had a plan um, a year and a half ago, and you just got rolling, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
this big thing comes, and how do you recover from that? It's challenging, and one of the things that I try to get people to understand, number one, business business only runs on one desire: revenue and profitability. That's what it comes down to all the time. And I know that there are leaders who talk about, we're family, and we are until the money runs dry, and then we're unemployed and we're no longer family.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, we have to have revenue, we have to have profitability.
Yes.
All of the other things that we have in the organization are the benefit of profitability.
Hmm.
Our healthcare, our company perks, our 401(k) plans, our paid holidays, whatever those incentives are that draw you to that company, that's only available because you have profit. Right?
Exactly.
Now, when it comes to individuals, right, we desire something a little different. Yes, we want those extrinsic things. We want a job, we want pay, we want a title. Great.
Hmm.
But we also have intrinsic desires. There's this thing, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Maslow's pyramid. And at the highest point of that pyramid is self-actualization.
Hmm.
What we desire as people is to satisfy our fundamental needs. And then as we work up that pyramid, we are satisfying more and more the things that we desire to make us better people.
Hmm.
And learning and education and finding a spouse and having a family, or or even if you don't have a family, but just doing things that are internally fulfilling to you.
Yeah.
Companies do not have that desire.
Hmm.
Companies are ran by people who have those desires, and they try and infuse a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, the company is going to make a decision based on revenue and profit.
Right.
Always, every single time. I was telling my students recently, I said, look, I think lions are amazing animals, but I would never try and make one my pet.
Yeah.
Businesses are the same way. Businesses have a very straightforward way of thinking: revenue, profit, and they operate kind of on three paradigms, right? Faster, better, cheaper.
Hmm.
As a worker, you're either making improvements for efficiency, you're either improving the quality, or you're making or saving money.
Hmm.
That makes you a valuable contributor in the eyes of a company.
Hmm.
How much you care about people around you, how much you care for customers, it's not that it's not appreciated, but at the end of the day, you can care all you want, but if you're not hitting on those three things, it's not always a great story for you. So that said, and I know this is it's horrible to hear these things, but
Hmm.
this is where we have to kind of understand the animal that we're dealing with,
Right.
right? This is where we have to then use what we know and our skills and our talent and our knowledge, and try and, to the best of our ability, improve the organization, businesses as we can, but also balance out the fact that, we have to fully understand the animal that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those reasons why, like, don't get so married to your job that you forget about all of those other things that are important
Yes.
to your life.
Yes.
Don't exchange so much of what you desire for the sake of money and title,
Hmm.
because at some point, that's going to end.
Yes.
Then what are you left with? Right.
Right. Who are you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, how many people have a career and then, somewhere along the line, the old cosmic two by four comes along, and for some reason you lose that career. And then it's like, well, who am I now? Well, my identity was in that career.
Yeah.
I don't have many friends unless they're around work. And I
And,
I've
and
lost
believe
in t
me, those people dry up fast the minute you're
yes,
not around.
exactly. And it's I mean, it is a really heavy cosmic two by four. It is, however, the invite to pivot into who you really are meant to be doing, what you really are meant to be doing, without the title, without the dictation of what business society says you should be. Because I do believe very much that the companies that focus on customer service, those that look at customers as being valued, appreciated, and accommodate them, whether they like something or don't like something goes wrong, that customer service will strengthen the business and put it above the others that are just gougers. Oh, they're just in it for the money. They don't care a damn. This company may not give me as good a service in some ways, but I prefer to go to them because they treat me as I'm seen.
Yeah.
And you know that the people care when they're attending you. And so for I therefore care about the company. And I think that for all the years I've been doing this in the business shows, those that put the customer first and understand about serving the customer and the customer service are the ones that, they're the pivot, they're the change. Because I think the other way is what we're seeing an example of right now, profit for profit's sake, and I don't care who suffers along the way.
Yeah.
And then the other saying, no, I've left corporate. I mean, you don't know how many people I've interviewed that have left corporate because they just couldn't live that soulless, thankless existence anymore. And they've taken their skills and their expertise and put into something they're passionate about. And people feel the passion, they feel the conviction. They want to be around that person. They want to do business with that person. And I feel that the tide is turning. Not to say you still won't have those big companies. I mean, we know how Amazon treats his people, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's getting to a point that if companies come up where we're more ethical in the way we treat our people, and our people are more partners in the company rather than slaves, we change where we want to shop.
Yeah, there's a guy by the name of Daniel Pink wrote a really good book a while back called Drive. There's a subtitle to that primary title, but he talks about the purpose-driven companies
Mm-hmm.
and that people want to work for a purpose motive and not a profit motive,
Yeah.
really a profit motive. And one of the things that I have to say about where I work right now in the wine industry, you know, I have been in the consumer goods industry for over 30 years. And I haven't worked for companies that I wouldn't say are necessarily terrible. Like, I don't have bad things to say about anybody I've really worked with in the past. But this group that I work with now, exceptionally, amazingly great people.
Right.
And the founder, so we're a company of only about 25 people. The founder started this company over 30 years ago. And I remember shortly after I started, he came up to me and he says, Ben, how are you doing? And I said, nah, and, typical me, I'm just kind of
Mm.
thinking, business speak, right? And I'm like, I'm doing okay. And he goes, no, no, Ben, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And, I paused him and I was like, oh, you really mean like how am I
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
And he goes, look, he goes, none of this works unless you're doing well. And he goes,
Exactly.
we're not into growth for growth's sake.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, we're going to grow, but we're going to grow responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to worry about fast growth. Like,
Right.
and the thing is it's wine. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
only so much.
Yes.
And all of the people that we do business with are all family owned wineries.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's done an amazing job of building a company
A
around,
village.
yeah, around
Yeah.
family oriented people. And the people we work with are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Are like, there is, because we're such a small company, everybody's responsible for their thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere to hide. If something
Right.
doesn't get done, it's because you didn't get it done. Not
Right.
because you can point your finger and say, "Oh, well, it
He
was
did
their
it.
fault." Yeah, none of that. None of that. You own it all. But there's so much appreciation and so much um, understanding. Truly, like, I keep saying it. Like, I'm like, okay, like I'm here. Like,
Mhm.
there no desire, not looking for anything else.
Right.
And it's funny because some people say, well, then why, Ben? Why did you start
Yes.
this media? Why did you start another
Yeah.
company? I am not looking to bail out of what I'm doing. It's just that I am a creative person.
And you have to put your creativity somewhere.
I
Mm-hmm.
idle hands if I'm not doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for 20 years, parallel to this job that I've been doing in sales and marketing operations, I've taught.
Yes.
And I've been in leadership positions in teaching. I've been director of an MBA program. I've been an area chair. I teach every fall, spring, and summer. And I have for 20 years. Like it's very rare that I'm not in the classroom doing something. Um, so why do this too? Because I think it's needed. I think education is changing. I
Yes.
think there's so many people out there who are
Yes.
saying, I don't know that I want to go to college. I
Hmm.
don't know that I want to take on that debt.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean they don't want to learn. It just means they don't want to go through that product cycle. They don't want to engage in education using that direction. And so I think that there's going to be a growing need, a continuing growing need on people seeking knowledge and information using certificate programs.
Hmm.
Now, in the past, and this is terrible, but when I was growing up, the whole idea was if you don't go to college, you're going to be, digging ditches and you're going to be miserable
Yeah.
your whole life, right? Which is a really terrible message to send to
Hmm.
people because there are plenty of people without a college degree who are amazing, who are smart, who run businesses, right? Yes, who've done it, who've done great things and continue to do great things. Who's this whole notion that you need a degree to be great at something is just, I don't know. I'm not a fan. And by the way, I did it because I wanted it for me.
Yes.
But by no means do I say, well, if you haven't done what I've done, then you don't have as much clout or, status that
It's more for you of like, okay, I can get some knowledge out of this that benefits rather
oh,
than the degree out this that I can rest my laurels on,
it's
right?
such a terrible way to view other people, right?
Yes,
To
like yeah,
qualify their
yeah. The
contribution.
MBA, the DDA, the DDA, and your title. Well, who are you? Who are
Yeah.
you underneath that title?
And believe me, I've met a lot of them who
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll just leave it at that. But, so, my desire is to kind of create a whole portfolio offering, right? So we have the podcast, right? One of the things I did when I started this company was I said, I think people could learn whether this thing crashes and burns and fails or becomes successful. I'm going to chronicle everything from the very beginning. So if you go listen to episode 1 of the podcast, you're going to hear me just starting out. And then, about for the first 2 years of the company, did about 10 podcast episodes a year. Sometimes we bring in, different people. I've had different co-hosts. I mean, you hear the evolution, in
Yes.
retrospect. Um, and it's really to kind of document the fact that business is tough. You start with
Hmm.
a plan, you think it's going to go one way. I've had board members come on the company and board members leave.
Hmm.
I've had people, gung ho about, yeah, let's, get in, and then a couple weeks later they drop off, and you do that. That's in the process of all of this, I lost my mom, I lost my dad,
Hmm.
uh, and that really took mentally
Yes.
took a toll on me. And you hear that. Like I went months between a podcast.
Hmm.
There were moments when I just wasn't putting out much content because I just wasn't into it.
No.
Um, and so, you listen to the story, you hear all that, but then now, kind of in this newly invigorated place, I've got a whole lineup of special guests that we're taping right now for the podcast. The one thing I need to turn my attention to is improving the education platform
Hmm.
because Daily Pitch Academy is one of the things we started. It's academy at dailypitch.news. And the desire there is to put online courses together for people to take, make them affordable.
Yes.
Ultimately, so my strategy is I want to hit people at every level that they are learning business from.
Hmm.
If you are brand new, you have no money, and you're just curious, you want to know more about how to be a good leader, be a good manager, check out the daily pitch, read the articles, and we're putting low cost or even free classes together so that when you go to the platform, you can take those. As you graduate up, you have a little bit more discretionary spending. The classes are going to get a little bit more intense.
Yes.
All the way up to I want to be able to align business leaders with coaches and consultants to help them at an executive level.
Hmm.
And after 30 plus years of doing what I've doing, being trained by some great people at big
Hmm.
organizations, my academic background and the people I've networked with, I have a whole host of people
Yes.
who I can tap into to help other people.
Hmm.
And that's really, at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to do. I'm trying to help other people get there faster, or just get
More
connected.
solidly, more
Yeah.
securely, more with roots. Yeah.
The other thing I'm toying with right now is starting a networking group
Hmm.
of just like-minded people who want to talk to other people and exchange ideas and Sarah, similar to the way you and I met.
Exactly, through wonderful Ben's Grow Getters platform. And what I
Right?
love about that platform is that it goes into breakout rooms where you have a conversation. You may
Yeah,
give a little topic, what do you think about that? But it is a way to get to know people. It's not a pitch. There was another group I belonged to, and I've left because, oh, now it's how can you do your pitch in 15 seconds? And then that's it. And then the person who's hosting is talking the rest of the time. So it's like I used to meet a lot of people and I interview an awful lot of people from it. Now I just can't go there now because it's all about the pitch, 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 and not the connecting. And you want
yeah,
to build relationships and connect with people and build that spider's web of connection.
I am big on that.
Mm.
I love talking, as you can tell, because I've been running my mouth, but I love talking. I
Yes.
love collaborating. I love meeting new people.
Yes.
Man, last week, did a podcast coming up in about 2 weeks. I did a podcast with a gentleman by the name of Jake Isham. And man, coming off of that, we had never met before, but man, I felt like I'd known the guy for years by the time we were done with the podcast. We had such a great conversation.
Yes.
Uh, that's what I love. Like
And this
that.
is the reason why I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah.
I've created what I call, a village, an umbrella, a library of wisdom ready for the clicking, right? People like yourself that are looking at, well, how do I tell my story? How do I start business in a way that people are going to hear me and understand what it is I'm trying to do? People are going to be engaged and want to do business with. Well, the reason I do these shows is I get to meet awesome people like yourself, but it's sharing your wisdom that's been accumulated and acquired through life experience that's going to
Yeah.
benefit the next people that are on their journey, young or old. Because how many people I started this at 57. So I'm turning 71. By the time the show airs, I would have turned 71. I've made a contract with the universe. I'll do this until I'm 90, as long as I can hear, see, and speak, right?
Yeah.
Because when something becomes your purpose in a sense of, I get up no matter how I'm feeling, and I'm looking forward to that conversation with somebody that is going to illuminate somebody else's life as they illuminate mine. And that becomes quite honestly intoxicating. It's the good, good, good vibrations. And
Yeah.
I think the more and more we step into the good vibrations of why we're doing it, how much we love it, and this is what I've got to share, the more it ignites the fuel and the encouragement and the passion and the conviction and the support for others. Don't we all benefit?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've been saying, I do this because I want to help other people get there
Yeah.
faster. So one of the reasons why. Um, I grew up, so I was born in Bakersfield, California, which back in the, late 70s, early 80s was a very Dust Bowl little town, Central California. And my parents, so my dad dropped out of high school, got his GED in the Air Force. My mom also dropped out of high school, got her GED, never went to college. My dad ended up working for AT&T, ended up, back in the
Mm.
day when you could get a job without
Yes.
college degree, right? But he had his training from the military. But rose through the ranks, did really
Hmm.
well. Dad was always a smart guy and loved science and all of that. But
Inquisitive.
yeah, but at the end of the day, I growing up as kids, because he was so proud of the fact that he had broken through,
Hmm.
he was convinced like you don't need college,
Hmm.
you don't. And he didn't in the work that he did, both he and my mom, it wasn't corporate work. It
Right.
wasn't office work. It was, my dad worked on radio towers and, got out in the snow and the dirt and the mud and, did that kind of work. Um, for many years. He eventually transitioned to office work. But uh, my point though is that when I started working in corporations and, my head has always been smarter, not harder. Like I
Hmm.
will find
Hmm.
the easiest, most efficient way to do something
Hmm.
because I don't want to waste time and I don't want to work too hard. So,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but so when I talk about helping people get there faster, I didn't even start college until I was in my mid 20s. Um, I had always worked and gone to school and raised a family all at the same time. Never had a fraternity, never went to, state college or anything
Hmm.
like that. Like just really hustled, like
Hmm.
worked while working. And
Yes.
so when I come across people who are like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't
Hmm.
know if I have the brains to do it or I'm not, college really isn't for me. Okay, fine. Doesn't have to be. But how can I help you learn something
Hmm.
that is going to help you get better at what you do? Like our mantra, helping managers, leaders, and entrepreneurs get better at what they do. That's at the end of the day, how can I provide you information and
Hmm.
insight that's going to hopefully ignite your interest,
Yes.
uh, help you get one step closer to your passion? Any one of us, my God, there are 10-year-olds on YouTube making
Yeah,
six figures
I know.
reviewing toys.
Yes.
We are in such a weird world right now. There's so many things you can do to make money. My goodness, how can I help you focus on whatever it is that you're interested in to help you? Like,
Yes.
at the end of the day, guess what? You're going to have to put in the reps. You're going to have to do the hard work
Mm.
and get it done. But if you want to know how to overcome an obstacle or get past something, if there's information or some strategy that I can help you learn to frame it up better for you or make it make sense for you, that's what I'm trying to do.
You're a trainer, you're a coach, and everybody that is successful in life will say they had a coach or they had a trainer. They had
Yeah,
somebody that was there. They didn't
we are
do it
not
on their own.
self-made
We can
people.
only go so far on our own until
Yeah,
we realize we need mentorship. We need
yeah,
other people, right? And because we're not meant to do it alone. We are meant to walk down that path on our own with the skills and the tools from other people that, give us. We've got to apply it. But
right,
it isn't about I did it all solo. And I'm guilty. I'm solo. I've always been there for other people, um, and I literally kind of done this in the dark. Just navigated my way as I've gone, and then I've met people that have helped me. Oh, you could do this better this way, or you could do it this way, or you could do it that way. And if it resonates, oh yeah, great, I do it. If it doesn't, no, because it takes me on a different path to where I'm going. I've got my compass and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Then, I'll apply or not apply. But the point is listening to people who give you the skills and the tools that you need in order to enhance your own journey, your own meaning for purpose, and your own service.
right. Yeah, and uh, I have to say, and my wife certainly knows this. I can be very stubborn. I can be very singularly focused at
Yes.
times.
Right.
And it is not always, it's one of those things that as a person, I've had to learn
Yeah.
to not always be the person who's right, and not
Yes.
always be the person who, has all the answers, and
Hmm.
um, but I think one of the things that age affords you is this ability to uh, get a little less concerned about being right all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anymore, I'm like, okay, look, everybody's got their own way. There was a time when I felt like, if you weren't working at the same level I was, then, I'm just gonna pass you up and pass you by. Anymore, like, what, I hate that I missed the opportunity to get to know some people better
Yes,
because
exactly.
I was in too much of a hurry. And by the way, that was more that corporate hamster wheel you get on.
Go get it, go get it, go get it, rah, rah, rah. Yeah.
And
You
I've had
have
to
to be on a
learn.
high the whole time, right?
Yeah,
The rah, rah, do it on a high. And we know that best creativity is when you're still in space and time and you allow. That's when the answers come to you. That's when you get the aha moments. It's not in the rah rah moments.
yeah. One of the reasons I pursued my PhD is I was interested in, I had one burning question, and I was not satisfied with the responses I was getting. The question that I was asking my leaders at the time, my corporate leaders at the time, was, how do you make people happy?
Hmm.
Because at the time I had an organization that I was working with, a department I was working with, and it was, some a fair level of dysfunction going on there. And, can't say that, I'm not innocent of maybe even contributing to some of that, but no. But when I say that, though, I mean that from the perspective of being more focused on the work than the people, right?
Yes.
And when you are in a situation where results matter and everybody
Hmm.
is drilling into you about, results and performance, you tend to lose a little bit of that, perspective. Um, but as the thing though with all of this is that I'm going through and I'm realizing like I like what I do. I'm engaged by what I do. And why isn't everybody engaged? Like,
Hmm.
what you work for a good company, you get paid well, you got all these perks and benefits. Why aren't you happy? And so I
Hmm.
asked people, like, how do you make people happy? And I got all kinds of answers. I got some people said, well, why do you care? It's not your
Hmm.
concern. Um, if they're not and it's becoming a work issue, then just, you'll manage them out or they'll manage themselves out. You know, none of these were good answers.
Yeah.
So I kind of went on this journey of well, I discovered positive psychology.
Hmm.
And I discovered it through reading a book called Delivering Happiness,
Hmm.
Tony Hsieh, CEO of Zappos. It was a real fascinating book. And at the end of the book, it had all of these other books that you could read and tap into. I read Jonathan Haidt, who's kind of a moral psychologist, and he had a really interesting book called The Happiness Hypothesis, which is very interesting. Sean Acor, who also kind of wrote on this topic of happiness. And then I stumbled upon Martin Seligman, who developed a framework called PERMA. And PERMA, an acronym for positive emotion, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement. And these five elements of PERMA were kind of the building blocks of what enables people to be, kind of thinking positively. Um, One of the reasons that he kind of developed this was uh, you, psychology up until the point where when he was president of the American Psychological Association, he says, psychology had always been kind of the practice of what's wrong with you.
Yes. Yes.
And, his approach was why don't we look at psychology like we look at physical health?
Mm-hmm.
Physical health, you eat well, you exercise to maintain a good, positive physical health. Well, what if we tapped into those things that make us positive, positive mental health and try and just exploit those things, right? And take in more of it to improve our positive psychological
Exactly.
well-being.
Exactly.
Hence PERMA, right? And so, I went and I learned all this stuff, did my whole dissertation study, on job design and positive psychology. And I will say this, uh, after all these many years of study, I can't necessarily say that I am any closer to the understanding of what makes a person happy. I think a lot of that comes within. But I do know that there are things that affect your positive well-being.
Yes.
And when you can isolate those negative things that are affecting your positive well-being and focus on improving that,
Mm-hmm.
that can help improve, your positive outlook on things. Um, how do we do that at work?
It's the management and the top that has to set the stage for it. I'm
Yeah,
interested, like the guy came to you. No, how are you? Not
yes,
how you're doing in the work, how are you? And when we
yeah,
actually care about the people that work for us, you're going through a tough time. You've seen this the TV show Undercover Boss,
yes,
right? So and then they actually get to see what the people who are working for them, what they're struggling with. And it gives them a whole different perspective because they're so busy in their ivory towers, they don't know what's going down at the root. And when you see what's going on at the root, when you're aware, you care. When you care, you do something about it, but you can't be unaware anymore. And when you actually treat people as you really do care about them and their well beingness, that sense of you care, that sense of loyalty, that sense of I'm a human being here is going to motivate them to want to do the very best they can,
yeah.
right? Because they're seen in the herd. So it's in investing in them to say, I care enough about you. And maybe that might then even have the person start caring enough about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's I will say after these many years, um, and I mention this all the time. The one downside of doing a PhD and going through all of that, I'm a much slower thinker. And I try to be a little bit more thoughtful with my
Mm-hmm.
words because what I came to realize in that process of your committee and your chair, kind of beating up on you and your paper
Yeah,
just to make you a better thinker, right? Better
right.
thinker, better writer, is that I don't have all the answers
Exactly. And you're
and
not
that
meant to.
there's so many variables out there. Um,
You'll know what you need to know when you need to know it.
yeah, but when it comes to improving, people and being a good leader. I think there are definitely things that we can tap into to be more empathetic, more understanding.
More
It doesn't
compassionate.
take away the needs of the business. That's
No,
the thing that I
I
talked
think it
about,
enhances it. I think it
right?
enhances it.
It,
Yes.
it, it can,
Yeah.
it can, but the revenue and profitability demands, those don't go away. And I think one of the things that is really tough, and I still struggle with it, is how do we balance that? How do we balance what we need internally with what we need externally? And the fact that those two things just don't align. Um,
Well, I still think that I'm from the customer service side, right? Because that's always been my thing. And when you have people that really do enjoy their work, they're seeing their herd, they have, they feel they really are contributing and they're noticed for contributing. They pass that on to the customer. When the customer feels that, they become very, very loyal to the company with whatever business they're in because of that customer service. I think it's when you've got companies where it's all about the profit bottom line. How much money am I making? Screw anybody else, my workers or my staff. They're going to screw themselves out of existence because people are craving to be seen and to be heard. I'm not a number. I'm not a ticket docket. I am a person who's trying to do business with you, trying to purchase from you. Can you treat me like a human being and see me? And I don't want somebody that's robotic. AI will do it better. Have invest in your people so they feel invested in who they are and what they're doing in your company and will give that customer service.
A wise mentor that I had many years ago, he gave me some great advice. He said, never be more than two levels away from the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, because the further you are away from the customer, the more expendable you are
Yeah.
in the
Uh-huh.
business. And he's not, it wasn't wrong about that. I think a lot of times, I mean, you look at a company like Google.
Mm-hmm.
Google does everything they can to not have to talk to you
Yeah.
directly.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly. God
if
help you if you need any assistance.
oh my gosh, let me tell you something. To this day,
Mm.
I have trying to figure out. I haven't two AdSense accounts. One is dead, and the other one isn't. Um, anyway, there is this whole crossing of wires between my AdSense and Ad Manager account, and one domain that I run, and another domain that I run, and the fact that these things can't be combined, and the
Yeah.
other number can never go away, and it's forever
Right.
talking and there's no one I can talk
No.
to. The only thing I can do is look through some support groups and kind of put in a ticket that might someday get answered by someone giving you some vague answer that doesn't really help.
No.
Um, but I don't know. They've set up a business model where they don't have to talk to people very
Well,
often.
and yes, okay, they've made themselves so big and we're so dependent on them. But at some point, there will be somebody else who sees that niche
Yeah.
that will put that power behind it. And all of a sudden, however big and puffed up and I've got the monopoly, there is somebody who says, hey, mate, you may have a monopoly, but I've got the will, I've got the way, I've got the people. And I'm going to put you out of business because I'm going to put people first. So,
And
yeah.
it's funny because all along, I remember growing up, Kmart was
Hmm.
Kmart and Sears, biggest
Yes.
department stores at the
I
time.
never understood why Sears went bankrupt. They had the catalog way
They
before. So they were online to go into online shopping would have been a breeze. What happened?
they were so huge. And before
Yeah.
then, like I heard stories of Woolworth, right?
Well, we've just had our bay over 300 years old, gone, demolished. We have no more department stores left.
You know, when I was a kid, right? Kmart, Sears, that was it,
Yeah.
right? And then Walmart came along.
Yes.
Walmart got so huge, everybody's like, nobody will ever dethrone Walmart. And then Amazon comes along.
Yes.
And then Amazon is now,
The giant.
the giant, right? And so Google, with the rise of AI and Chat
Mm.
GPT, and if somebody else comes and figures this model out and does it with a little bit more
Yeah. Humanity.
focus on customer service and
Yeah.
serving the businesses that use your platform, my goodness, they could shake things up. And if not them,
Absolutely.
somebody else.
There
So
is
never
always a bigger
say,
fish.
yeah,
Always. Yeah. And so if you're not, and people will be loyal to a company that's loyal to them. If you show no loyalty with no customer service, oh, somebody's got something better and they actually speak to me.
right,
Where are you going?
right.
Right.
This is, I mean, it's how TikTok,
Yeah,
became big. And, I mean, it's always changing. It's
it
always
is. And if you
evolving.
don't evolve, if you don't pay attention to what the customer wants, because without the customer, what are you?
Well, this kind of goes back to my whole, drive on the education front because colleges and universities, they are the least customer friendly
Oh, yeah.
environment. And for what they charge for the product versus that return on investment, and something it's terrible that you have to have this conversation with people, but I tell students all the time, if you don't have a return on investment for the degree you're getting, And by the way, like the job that you're thinking of, the career you're thinking of going into, uh, you need to make sure that whatever you're paying for your degree, you're going to be able to make the money to pay that back.
Yes.
And how terrible is that that you have to have that conversation to say, look, if you can't afford to learn, you better go find or go do something that is going to give you the money so that you can go learn.
Well, and I think that's definitely the way it's going. You're just talking about books. I want to bring this one up because I
Yes.
love this book. Who Moved My Cheese by
Yep.
Spencer Johnson,
Classic.
MD. It's a
Classic.
classic book, but it's so profound. I'm a true colors coach, the four key personality traits, which four key personality traits in here for people who haven't read it. Two men, two mice around an abundance of cheese, and one day the cheese is gone. And list the different reactions of each one. The mice, sniffy and scurry, go scurrying around and sniffing around for more cheese. And hem and ha become paralyzed. Ha eventually realizes they're hungry and goes after. Sniffy and Scurry, where have they got the cheese? They go on an adventure. Hem is, give me back my cheese. Who do I have to sue? Who do I have to kill to get my cheese back? And those are the people that make themselves obsolete because they're unwilling to be flexible and realize one door is closed, so there's another door open over here right now. It's very drafty because the door is open. Go through it, right? And we've got to look at ourselves. It's like, who are we? Are we the hem, ha, sniffy, or scurry? And to realize that if I am the hem, well, I need to do something about that because nobody's going to give me that cheese. I've got to go and find it for myself.
Yeah, I mean, and that I think a lot of it for many people is trying to figure out who you are and what it is that you want. Like what really gets you interested and motivated.
Yes.
Um, in whatever that thing is. There's a way to make a living doing whatever it is that
Yeah.
thing. It may not be a traditional path, and that's the other thing. I think a lot of times we got to close ourselves off to what other people think our path should be.
Yes.
Because, it's like when people today they ask me like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Sit down." Uh,
How long have you got?
exactly. Like, I'm like, well, there's a lot that I do. What is
But
it?
there's a core element to everything that you do.
There is. I think at the end of the day, there is. But the reality is that I have an array of different interests, and um, I think when you don't allow me to do my thing, to
Mhm.
wander, to explore, that's when I become miserable, and that's when I start doing terrible work for you.
Right, exactly.
Um, and I've over
You're a
the last,
possibility person.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, where I have been very fortunate is that I have been able to find uh, groupings, right? And,
Hmm.
groupings of things, where every one of them allows me to kind of do the things that I'm interested in the way that I want to do it. In
Yes.
turn, I feel like I bring a lot of value to those who are allowing me, enabling me to do that. Like, um, even in, the primary work I do in the wine industry, like I was hired to do one thing, but man, I do so many other things besides that.
Because you can, because you
Because I
see
can,
them
yeah.
and they
Because I can,
appreciate
and they
that
don't
because they
mind.
know that you're not a narrow-minded person or doing one thing, that you have the ability to see, oh, this, and what about that? And how about if we did this? And what if we did that? And that's what you want in a company. People who go, what if?
Yeah. Yeah. And, my other counterparts who are kind of like me, like there's a few of us in the group that we all kind of have this desire to push the envelope when it comes to technology, like
Hmm.
bring in new innovative things, different ways of doing stuff. Um, and we all kind of know what we're good at and what our limits are. Like I support salespeople.
Yes.
It's what I've done most of my career. I am not a salesperson, not like they are. Now,
Right.
I I'm fine if I'm promoting myself, if I'm marketing myself, if
Mhm.
I'm telling you the things that I can do for you, but like for example, like I enjoy wine, these people run circles around me. They just
Hmm.
such their expertise. I so marvel at how well they know this stuff, and how joyful they are about it. Like how much joy it brings them just talking about it, being in the mix of it, and doing.
You're giving them the fuel and the support they need to be their passion.
Yeah, I hope. Like that's the
But that's what you
goal.
need. You know, the thing is, when you're passionate about something, sometimes we get so caught up in the passion of it that we don't look at the practicality of it.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody that can bring about the practicality and the strategicness around it, that will feed and support the passion, right? Now you've really got a really good partnership. But if you're just in passion and without the structure, it gets people stimulated, but then what? So you need that
Yeah.
structure behind there, that, okay, you're passionate about that. How are we going to? What are the steps? What's the structure behind this? Which, when people are very, very passionate, don't always see.
One of the things I often do, when people bring me something like, "Hey Ben, can we do this?" I never immediately say no.
Right.
Yeah, like even if we don't do it today, even if we've never done it before, my knee-jerk reaction is never no. It's always
You
like, you know
don't
what?
know.
Let me go find out, and if we
Yes.
can't, I'll let you know we can't. Or if it's going to take me some time, I'll give you that. Or if it's going to be expensive, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I really try to make a habit of not saying no unless I'm absolutely certain that we
But you
can't.
can then give no with a reason and not a carte blanche no.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people will accept that. Okay, all right. I didn't realize it would cost that much to do this or that. What else can we do instead? Instead of saying no. And then they feel dismissed and shut off. And they're not going to come back to you. So we want the other no. We don't want the no. We want the I will look into it. Right?
Yeah, I try to be the Johnny Appleseed of technology.
Mm,
Because so many times I've worked with people in organizations where, you go to them and their immediate response is no. And I'm like, but which, by the way, is great for me because I am always like, no just means not right now, or that you don't have the time, but it doesn't mean I can't figure it out.
exactly. I'll just approach you from a different angle. Yeah. We need optimists, but
Yeah,
an optimist that's also a strategist.
yeah.
Right? That
Right.
is when you've really got the win-win, because without the optimism, I know I can make this work. It's just how, which tools?
Yeah,
MacGyver. We need the
yeah.
MacGyvers in a business.
Always trying to figure out a solution. And again, the like in business, right? Faster, better, cheaper. I like to make things efficient and work and
Yeah.
smooth
And
because
smart.
yeah, when it runs well, then you can go focus on something else and
Yes.
build that other thing up.
You don't want to be in crisis mode all the time, because you set things up for crisis,
Yeah,
right? You want
yeah,
you want to
no,
be in, when a crisis comes up, you can deal with it rather than going in crisis mode all the time and not even recognizing there's another crisis coming.
I think sometimes, I think about the job back in the day, right? An elevator operator, a person who stood in an
Yes.
elevator all day and just took it from one floor to the next. And there's kind of two mindsets. One person looks at that job and goes, man, how cool is that? All you have to do all day is sit in
Yes.
an elevator and take people places, and that's it, and you get paid for that. Wow, I want to do that. And then there's me who goes, my God, that has got to be the worst job ever to just sit there all day and do that one thing. And, like that's,
And then I look at it, oh, I wonder who I'm going to meet along the way, what stories I can learn.
right?
Right?
Yeah, see, and that's just it. Is that
Yeah.
we both
We all
come.
get something out of it. It's like, you know, is it the elevator or is it the elevator pitch? It's knowing who you are. What's boring to one person is stimulating to another, because it's all a
Yeah,
question of what opportunity you see in it.
absolutely. And it's funny because as I was telling that story, I didn't even think about the fact this is why you are who you are. You're like, who am I going to meet today?
Yeah.
And all I saw was the mechanic and the elevator, and that's it. I didn't even think about the people
No,
coming in.
no, God, how many people coming from before that I could say hello to and I get to know too? I mean, look, when you look at the old-fashioned, building where they knew everybody that lived there. How are you doing today? How's the dog? How's this? How's that? They became somebody that where the residents felt seen and the
Yeah,
residents felt secure with this person because you know that it was engaged in your stories and he became part of the family, even if it was just going up and down in the elevator, right? And that's what we want. What do we need as human beings? Connection
yeah.
on some
Well,
level or other.
it's funny. This is the kind of person I am. I'm gonna dwell on this for days because I'm gonna sit there and say, how come I didn't think about the people? Like that's really gonna bother me. But
Because you're wired to think of it that way. I'm wired to think of it of another. And the thing is that we can actually put all our wires together and come up with something that's really illuminating. So,
this is very true. Very true. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think that business and business knowledge and business education is one of those things that, and I tell students all the time, a business degree is a life degree.
mhm,
Every day you will use what you learned in business school. Now, doesn't mean that if you go without one that you somehow won't learn this stuff. But again, my job, my goal, I want to help people get there faster. Um, I think about my parents, right? They were never great investors. They
mhm,
were, never great savers. And, when they passed away, they had a little bit, they had enough to take care of themselves, but, by no means me and my siblings were not, handed some grand estate, like,
right.
which is fine. Like I was never under the impression that was ever going to be the case. But I would have conversations with my dad all the time, like, Dad, like you should do this, or you should invest in it here, put it here. Um, and he was always like, oh, you're just trying to get to my money. And I'm like, no, honestly, I'm just trying to help you out. Um,
He just
and
didn't see it. He saw it from obviously his parameters of his growing up. And don't forget, he probably grew up around some war or other, right? On certainly the repercussions of war. And
yeah,
so, it's what I've got in
partly,
front of me, and that's what I can rely on.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, did not, my grandfather was from Guadalajara,
Mhm.
Mexico. My grandmother, lived in Rogers, Texas, little tiny town in Rogers, Texas. And even on my mom's side of the family, were they worked picking agriculture in
Mhm.
California. Like they didn't, did not grow up by any means with, all of this great stuff. And, my dad did well for himself. But like I said, yeah, we uh, did not pass on this, huge amount of money. Um, but the thing is that, with the little bit my dad left me, um, have, just put it aside, but have grown it in a very short amount of time.
Yes.
And my point here is that and I always think like, gosh, Dad, if you had just let me have
Yes.
yeah. Like I could have we could have done way better.
Mm.
Um and so that's kind of my push, my drive is to, how can I help people get there faster. And by the way, if you're one of the people who are like, you look at the site, you look at the information, you're like, yeah, yeah, we already know that. That's great. Wonderful. Glad you do. There's a lot of people who don't, though.
Exactly.
There's a
And
lot of people trying to
there's
focus on
another
that.
thing. But last year I put out a book called Our Forgotten Children, which you see up there, an anthology around the raising of our children and what we need to do better. And right now I'm gathering offers for our forgotten seniors. And one of the reasons around that is celebrating all the contribution that they have given through their
Mhm.
lives, the challenge of being a senior, but the warning to the youth of preparing for seniorship. Because
Mhm.
believe me, it hits you. And if you're not prepared for it, which I wasn't, I had invested in a business. Somebody stole the technology. I lost everything. Very hard game to start again at 57. So I wish I had something to invest in that could grow and give me my security. So, even bringing that into your conversation with people while you're building a business, at the same time, invest in your old age
Yeah.
because it comes and hits you. And it isn't just about your business now, the next 10 years, or you want to have kids or this and that. If you're not preparing, especially today, I promise you, pension does not cover living today, right?
Did
So
it ever?
did it ever? It did it ever? And the thing is, you've got to have something that is building towards your nest egg when you get older. And I think when people actually look at business, I'm not just building a business for today and this stage of life, but I'm looking at something that will secure my old age. I think it also changed the perspective of why they're building a business.
My daughter is an actress, which means she lives at home and she's also a barista. But she works.
Until she's discovered and then
Well,
she's
right.
overnight sensation. Yes.
I mean, she's been booked on some things, and she's got an agent, and
Mhm.
she's repped, and she's doing auditions all the time, and there, I know this is the industry she wants to be in, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, let's work with that. Here's what we need to do. One, you're not going to move out because you're going to be on an aggressive savings plan right now while you're young and you're making money and you don't
Mhm.
have a lot of bills. You're not going to go create bills for yourself.
Right.
You're gonna sock away as much as you can. We're gonna work on saving and investing because in the industry you're going into, there's feast and famine. And
Gravy one month, breadcrumbs the next. Yes.
when times are good, we're
Yeah.
going to sock that money away. And when times are lean, we're going to scale down our living,
Hmm.
expenses, right? And at some point down the future, you'll be able to live off of your money's going to make money for you, and
Right.
that will be your income. That will be how
Mm.
you live. And this is what's going to carry you through in between things. We're not going to go crazy. We're not going to buy lavish things. We're not
Hmm.
going to try and keep up with everybody else and all of their
The
trendy.
Maserati up the driveway. Yes.
And by the way, she's very good about that. I have to say, she's got amazing hustle and she's got a really good delayed satisfaction. Like
Hmm.
she doesn't have to immediately get
Mm.
something. She saves up for it. She pays for it.
Probably has more appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But the thing is that uh, when we come across things that we want to do, it doesn't mean that just because it doesn't take us immediately to
Yeah,
where we envision it to be, that we can't do it, right?
exactly.
And part of being her parent is giving her all the information about, have you thought about healthcare? Have you
Hmm.
thought about, insurance? Have you thought
Hmm.
of, like, here are all the realities of life that you're going to be dealt with. Now, the reason I do all of that is because, um, granted, my parents did their best. But again,
As we do, as we do. Well, what we
strong-willed,
know in the time, right?
strong-willed, strong-head. I think back to when I was living at home and making money, I could have saved more.
Hmm.
I could have put money away in investments. I could have, done so many other things that would have greatly improved, my situation now. Um, and not complaining about my situation. I'm just saying it could have been better.
Yeah.
Investing in Apple or Microsoft way back in the day,
Yes. Yes. A
um, you
vastly
know,
different scenario. Yeah.
I had the money to do it, but never did it. But these are the things that when I talk about trying to help people get there faster, help them learn it
Mm.
now. Um, all of that, like it's it's freedom when you can focus on the things you want to do versus taking the job you have to do.
Right. And,
Uh,
and whether it's a job or whether it's a business, is that as you make the profit, where is it going to go?
yeah,
A percentage in something that would generate more money, a percentage put in for future growth, right? A percentage for contingency. should something
Yeah.
go wrong. And if you're not putting those things away, you can't weather the storms when they come, right? So you need to have something that gives you something to fall back on during those stormy periods, because every company goes through, or every business, whether you're singular or have a small to big business, goes through a bumpy road. And you need to know, I'm cushioned for that. We're okay.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, be frugal.
Yeah.
Lots of people are kind of in a hurry to get to the same level as everyone else. I see this a lot in young people. They look at people coming out of in corporate America with high titles and high salaries, and they want so quickly to get there. And it's like, it'll come. It'll
Yes.
come. Just do good work, hustle. And if you're not the smartest person in the room, be the hardest working person in the room, and it will come. Like you don't have to be brilliant. You just have to be dependable and show
And did
up.
and have tenacity. My son didn't do university, but there was an entrepreneur program through success that he went through, but he's born entrepreneur. I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
And he's had many different types of businesses, but for the last 7 years, he's had his own restaurant. And it's just a small little restaurant. And they've weathered so many storms, COVID.
Uh,
Um, he's
sure.
snapped his Achilles, he shattered his ankle,
Oh
he's had
no.
breakups. I mean, he did shattered his ankle 7 weeks before he got married, so he got married on crutches. So, but whatever's been handed to him, like his Achilles snapped, and then I went over to look after him, um, and then 3 days later, COVID came, and instead of shutting down, he pivoted to pickup. But there he is, by the phone, taking orders with his foot in a cast, up on the chair. And it's like he's had many storms that he's had to weather, right? But he's got an entrepreneurial mind where it's like, okay, this doesn't work, let's try this. This doesn't work, let's try. But he's also developed with his staff a sense of family, and he will have Christmas party for them. He'll have Thanksgiving party for them. Have summer appreciation day. He does a 1 week where all the profits for that week go to his staff. So whatever people buy, the profits go to the staff,
Oh
and the
wow.
staff enjoy working for him because they feel seen and heard and a part of something, right? And now, consequently, in his area, he's very well known, very well respected. They do a lot of catering, so they cater for all the big events. And because first and foremost, they bought his passion, his conviction. And I've always said for him, if people go out with a smile on their face and a smile in their tummy, he's happy, right? Because that's what it's about. Did you enjoy the food? Did you enjoy the atmosphere? And you'll find those people will come back again. That's the kind of customer I'm talking about. That's the kind of customer service I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's not just reliant on the food. If the atmosphere is not there, if people don't feel this is my place, they're not going to come back. They're not going to refer. And that's what you want to build up, a community where people want to support you because they feel valued.
Well, and I think and I see this more in the up and coming generation. I think for my own generation, we were trying so quickly to amass things, like to
Yes.
build things, to, big house, nice car kind of stuff. I want to say, I think that this next generation, especially in the Gen Z generation,
Yeah.
they're a little bit more grounded.
The
They
avocado toasters.
yeah, I mean, they don't drink as much, they don't
Yeah.
smoke as much, they
Right.
eat
They
better.
don't work as many hours because they want to enjoy life more.
This is true. This is
Mhm.
true. And there's positives and negatives to that
Yes.
as a business owner, but you know what, at the end of the day, um, I think that they might just have it a little bit more figured out
Yeah.
than we did.
Yeah, and that goes with every generation. As I said, I'm
Yeah.
71, so my generation was all about, the big corporate. And of course, if you were a woman in corporate, it was a totally different scenario. So,
Yeah.
I came across things very, very different as a woman in those businesses, which was really, I never really enjoyed working for corporates because of that. And I was always a disruptor didn't go in to be a disruptor. I just was because I spoke up about things that I saw and because I couldn't keep quiet. So I've owned my own business, I've owned my own restaurant, I've been in big corporate businesses, etc. I'm never really good at money. Um, I am for other people, not for me. But when it comes down to it's when you truly love what you do and why you do it. And if you would get up every day and do it for free, then you know you've found the right thing. Doesn't mean you do it for
Yeah.
free, but you found the right thing, right? You found your calling, and you know that in giving your all, you're never giving too much because you know you've got the energy for it because it gives you energy.
I will say, and this is the one thing about, Dist Media, the company, and Daily Pitch, it is not a moneymaker.
Right?
Like, we're 3 years in, haven't made really much of anything. It is really a passion project. It is something
Exactly.
that I enjoy doing. And the way that I rationalize it is I said, look, some people love photography. Some people have a favorite sports team and they go and they buy season tickets.
Hmm.
And, or you like off-roading or boating.
Hmm.
And, you've made all of this investment in gear and stuff to do
Yeah.
that thing. Well, guess what? This is my thing. This is my side. I don't want to call it a hobby because
No,
it isn't.
it's work. It's work. It's
It's
a
work.
passion project.
It very much is. And I
Yeah.
enjoy it and I get joy out of it. And you know what? If I enjoy it and other people find what I'm doing useful and helpful,
Yes.
awesome.
That's what it's about. Now, I know you've got a free gift for people.
Yes.
So, would you tell them what that is and how they can get it?
Yes. So we have been building out. And when I say we, I always say that as if I have a whole team. It's pretty much just me. But
The multiple personalities of you.
yes, multifaceted me. Um, I have been building out a learning platform because, as I mentioned earlier, part of giving out all of this wisdom is also about trying to help people and leverage what I've learned as an educator to build courses. And so we have a website called academy.dailypitch.news. And if you can't remember that, just go to dailypitch.news and you'll see a link there to the education platform. Uh, for listeners, if you go, there's a social media marketing class. It's priced at like $49, but if you use the promo code WISE, WISE, you can enroll in that course and take it absolutely free. And I will say this, you know what? If something is wonky, if something doesn't work, I mean, I've done my best to test a lot of this stuff,
Mm.
but if you run into any problems, reach out to me, ben@distmedia.com. Let me know what your troubles are. I will help you through it. I will get you on there. And, one of the things that you will do when you enroll, you'll be on our mailing list. And as I
Mm.
develop other classes and I need people to help me test these out, and you want some free education, reach out to me. Let me know. My goal is to help. So definitely check it out if you're interested.
So it's academy.dailypitch.news, NEWS, and it's dailypitch.news. You're on LinkedIn as Ben Olmos, Olmos,
Yes.
YouTube, The Daily Pitch News, Facebook, The Daily Pitch News, TikTok, The Daily Pitch, and Instagram, dailypitch.news. So
If
they
you
can.
put in the daily pitch, you'll find us. You know what's really awesome? I know we're wrapping up, but I got to tell you this real quick. So there's a venture capital company out there called PitchBook. And they have a newsletter called The Daily Pitch. Now, when I named my company, I was not aware of this, but I have done such a great job at SEO optimization that if you put in The Daily Pitch, I'm the first hit. And they are so annoyed by this, I think, that they actually now pay to advertise on Google. They pay for the keyword daily pitch so that they rank above me. You'll see that they're
Mhm.
sponsored above me. But a lot of my articles and stuff like that, they kind of outrank them. So yeah, if you put in the daily pitch, you'll find me. You put in my name in Google, you'll find all of my stuff. So yeah, done a pretty good job of building our brand that way.
Exactly. And that is a lesson in itself, right? Because if you have a business, you have a brand.
Yep.
If you're even if a solopreneur, you are the brand. How do you pitch this? How do you get that out there that people identify with you and your brand and what you do? And that's, you know, it's all very well having a great idea and setting things up, but if you're not doing the next level, or getting yourself out there, being invitational, networking, putting the right words out there to draw people back in, you ain't going to go anywhere. So there's so much to learn, so many skills and techniques. As I said, you've got the passion, right? So the passion with the strategy. And so if you're in business for yourself, folks, you better be coming from a place of passion and purpose, because it's
Mm.
going to take, you're going to be working on in your business and on your business for a long time before you can just be working on the business and not in it all the time. So it's really important that you know what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to frustrate yourself, or you're going to walk away from it and think I'm a failure. And all it is, you just didn't know the particular skills and tools that you needed in order to be a success. And that's what Ben is here for. So tap in to his free program, tap into his courses, pay attention to all his wonderful podcast videos, and follow him on TikTok. And don't forget, respond, react, participate, because that's the motto of my shows is listen, learn, and apply. There's something you've learned here today that you can apply that's going to pivot you in the right direction, but it's up to you to do so. Thank you so much, Ben, for being with us here today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing. I will see you all over on the network. And of course, when you have got your network group up, let me know and I'll promote that as well.
Awesome. I will do that.
All right, folks, remember there's always somebody here to aid you, to help you, because they're passionate about doing that. So when you have a passion project of your own, you're looking for it to be successful, reach out to the people that can help you in whatever level you're at. It's their passion project. When you put all of these passions together, look what you have, illumination for all. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.